Hello and welcome, everyone. Everybody can hear me, right? I don't even think I need a microphone, but okay. So welcome. We're very happy that you're allowing WisDOT to have the opportunity to explain life of a WisDOT project from a project manager's perspective. Basically, we'll do introductions in a minute, but what we're going to talk about is actually the actual journey that it takes to actually deliver a transportation project and the cycles that we go through. Whether it's in planning, design, or construction. So we're going to start with presentations. We're going to share some links and, so that you can have resources of where to go to find out what's out there, what opportunities are out there. We're also going to talk about some successful stories with the DBE business owners. So hopefully it'll be a successful session. To start this, what we're going to do is we're going to do little introductions, and for us, and then after the and then we're going to have a little presentation. After the presentation, we're going to have an interactive sessions with questions and answers, and to do that, we brought in an excellent panel here. Not just the presenters, but we also got the WisDOT panel here that bring a lot of expertise to the table. We wanted to make sure that your questions are answered, and not just answered, actually with actual examples and facts that they can use. Okay? So to begin that, we're going to start with introductions, then the presentation, then we'll have an open discussion. So I would ask that you save your questions until the presentation is over. I'll start with myself. My name is Reem Shaheen, and I am a Technical Services Section Chief at WisDOT in the Southeast region. And basically, my area is, they oversee the specialty areas that go into a transportation plan. Examples of that are like erosion control, environmental, materials, so any specialty areas. And the other area that I manage is consultant services, consultant contracts. So I've been with the department for 25 years, so I'm happy to be here. I have the three presenters are on this side, and then I'll move to the panel that are going to help with the interaction. And please make it an interaction discussion, because we want you to have an interaction with us and get to know what we do and why we do it.
Sure, good morning. I'm Tony Barth. I am the Systems Planning Chief in the Southeast region at DOT. So in our group is kind of where the projects initiate, and we identify projects that come into the program largely based on data-driven approach, pavement needs, safety, and things like that. So I'll turn it over to Jason. Are we going to introduce the whole panel? Okay.
Good morning. I'm Jason Roselle. I'm the Southeast Freeways Construction Chief. So my team oversees all the major and mega freeway projects in the southeast part of Wisconsin.
My name's Doug Kane. I'm one of the project managers in our project development section and design, and I work in the southeast region.
Good morning. I'm David Nguyen. I'm a project development chief in Southeast region. In our group, we oversee the design and construction. What's special about our group is we're delivering major projects and also the local program.
Good morning. My name is Mark Zapp, WisDOT Southeast Region, construction project manager for the local programs group. We work with the smaller type projects, working with the cities, counties, for local streets, county highways, bridges on the local programs.
Good morning, Brian Boothby, Southeast Region also. I'm the local program design and construction supervisor.
Good morning. I'm Joe Gallimore in Southeast Freeways, in another PDS team, and we handle rehabilitation and reconstruction on the freeways within Southeast Freeways.
Good morning. My name is Ben Erushlu. I'm Project Development Supervisor, Southeast Waukesha, and we deal with project design.
Good morning. Jay Oldenberger. I'm the Southeast Construction Supervisor, currently on the I-43 Majors project.
Good morning. I'm Bumi Olapo. I'm the Project Development Section Chief, one of the 4 Project Development Section Chief for the Southeast region. My team oversee the 3R projects We call it 3R, meaning the reconstruction, rehabilitation, and the resurfacing project on the State Trunk Highway in the Southeast region.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Mohammed Hussein. I am the PDS construction supervisor. As Bhumi mentioned, I normally doing construction for 3R projects in PDS section.
All right, and I'm telling you, if there's anybody that has answers to your question, it's this group here, full of expertise and lived the journey of a transportation project. All right, now we'll give it to the presenters, and we're going to start with Tony Barth.
All right, thanks, Reem. All right, so again, I'm on the planning side, so we work on initiating projects, getting them into the program. Doug is then going to talk a little bit about the design phase of things and how projects move through the design phase, and then Jason is going to talk about construction. So hopefully we can give you some little bit of insight about how projects move through, get initiated, and move through the program at DOT. So first of all, projects fall in different funding buckets. They're the major projects, the real big projects, the zoo interchange type projects, the expansion of Highway 50 down in Kenosha. Those are major mega projects. Those get initiated and managed. Oops, looks like we're jumping ahead here. Centrally in Madison, those get managed. Backbone projects, that's a rehabilitation program on the interstates, and in Southeast region of Wisconsin, it's just the interstates and rehabilitation, not reconstruction. In other parts of the states, it's other major routes in addition to the interstate highways. And then, not sure why it's jumping ahead, but then the State Trunk Highway System is the 3R program that Bhumi talked about, is a lot of what we deal with in the region. So the majority of the projects are resurfacing type projects. We continue to try to maintain the assets we have, and we've got a real comprehensive program to determine which projects get brought into the program based on safety and based on pavement conditions largely, and a lot of other factors. And then there's also local program projects. So those projects are initiated by local municipalities or counties of various different types of work. And then we have advanceable projects that we always plan for. There is always needs, it seems like, for advanceable projects. Sometimes, of course, with increased funding, we want to be ready with more projects. If there's LET savings, if there's estimate reductions on the projects that we have, there's delivery complications, we want to be ready to have other projects available. So we have a pretty robust advanceable program. So the life cycle of a project, really, when there's a new project constructed, that's going to probably go through 4 different rehabilitation cycles before it gets reconstructed again. So that could be a 60-year time frame. So it's important that we determine which projects we want to bring forward and which projects and what the scope of those projects are. So that's what we work on a lot in the planning group. So a rehab project is likely a resurfacing type project, a preservation type project. So these are the different types of projects that we have in kind of order of complexity or impact. The beginning life cycle of a project, maybe the first rehab is going to be more of a crack fill type project likely, or a patching type project. And then we get into the resurfacing projects. There's different types of resurfacings, basically based on the thickness of pavement that gets resurfaced. Then usually a couple cycles of resurfacing the project, and then it gets into a pavement replacement project, typically in the same footprint, or it could widen slightly, but generally in the same footprint for the rehab projects. And then on the bridge side, same thing. There's bridge rehabilitation projects. A life of a bridge may be 75 to 100 years. So we want to make sure we're doing the right rehab, the right fix for the project at the time to try to get that life out of it that we can. Then I wanted to bring up, there's a 6-year program GIS map that's available on the DOT webpage and under the Doing Business section. And this hopefully is really handy for you folks, and especially maybe on the construction side of things. So this is a GIS map of all the projects that we have in the state in the 6-year program. So you can take it and drill in and look at any project. So they're coded by color based on the year that it's being let. So, all right, we're gonna see if we can fix the technical difficulties. We'll try to pull this map up on the screen. If we're not able to, I know everything's going to be provided to all the attendees. So, but the GIS map that we have allows you to check any project. So if you have a particular area that's of interest, maybe a particular county or particular region, if you know you want to focus on maybe a construction project or bidding on a construction project in that area, you can get information on it of what the type of project is, what year it's being built, and different things like that. So if we're not able to get this up now, we could probably get it up after the panel discussion, just so you have an idea what that looks like. All right, I think we're back on track. So I'm going to try to, doesn't look like it's coming up. All right. So we'll see if we can get that up later before we're done with the presentation and after the panel discussion. But then the last slide I just want to talk about, this is a little hard to see. You're not going to be able to see everything, but it gives you an idea about the time frame of a project. So when it's in planning, we're typically looking at projects that are 6 to 8 years out when we initiate them into the program. So it'll be in that planning phase and scoping of the project phase for up to 4 years. And then it gets into design, which Doug is going to talk about for couple more years at least. And then the construction phase, and then you're back into the maintenance, and then after the maintenance phase, the next rehabilitation would start. So that's really the early part of the planning phase of a project, and I'll turn it over to Doug to talk about the design phase.
All right, thanks, Tony. So I am going to talk about the design phase, and I wanted to start just by showing a map of the state, and that we do have 5 regions of operation within the states that work by county. So if you're in a particular county, you'll be working with a specific region. This table here talks about improvement types again, and it expands on what Tony had talked about, with the improvement type being resurface, pavement replacement, reconstruction, expansion, and then our bridge categories. And next to the improvement type, in the second column, we have the improvement concept. And then in the third column, we have what typical type of work items might be expected with each of these type of projects. So why do we have a design process? We have a process to provide statewide consistency. It builds trust with our partners and the public, ensures better defined project scope, schedule, and budgets, and provides defined deliverables with checkpoints. And so here's a picture of our project stages. So the first two boxes are showing the planning effort. Again, this is where the project is initiated. And then the second box would be project definition. And that would be under planning with our final scope team. And here they would be doing the initial data gathering and developing the scope and creating 30% plans. And then once we have 30% plans, there's a final scope certification process that gets signed off on, and it gets sent to the design section then to do preliminary and final design. So that would be the project delivery box. And then it goes to the proposal execution, which is led by our Bureau of Project Development, but design section assists in that until it's let. And once it's let, it moves into construction. So under our project delivery, when it's handed off at 30%, then the project design team takes it to through preliminary design to 60%. And one of the first tasks that we need to do is resource the project. So we'll be looking to determine if it should be a DOT-led project, if we need a consultant-led project, or if we might need consultants to do specific tasks. So here's an opportunity where DBE consultants can certainly get involved in our design process, either through leading a project, being a sub to another consultant, or maybe a specific task on a project. In 2022, at the DBE workshop, there was a presentation by DOT on life of a project in the scoping process and consultants selection process. So that's out on the WisDOT website under the DBE section, and you could certainly go look at that if you would like more information on the consultant selection process. So once we have it resourced, then we're looking at doing our initial public involvement. We're preparing our environmental document. Here's where we'll start reaching out to resource agencies, the DNR, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, doing our Arc and History research, hazmat research. And a lot of this upfront work will be in the special provisions of the construction contract. So it starts to set the framework for what might be needed in the final plan set. We work on developing our traffic management plan. We start railroad coordination if there's a railroad involved. If there's a right-of-way, we would begin the right-of-way plat during this phase. And then at the end, we develop 60% plan and estimate, and we have a review meeting. And that's another milestone that we like to get concurrence on before we move into final design. So to document this process, we'd prepare a design study report, a DSR, and that would be our conclusion of preliminary design. And then we would move into final design, which basically is going from a 60% plan to a final plan plan specifications and estimate, PS&E. And here we're just working on our final public outreach. If we have a right-of-way plat, to complete the right-of-way plat, acquire real estate if needed. That's typically 12 to 18 months, but it can take up to 24 months if we have relocations or a large number of parcels. We finalize our traffic management plan. We coordinate and do a utility plan for utility relocations that may be required. We work on our drainage plans, our signal plans, our signing and marking plans, and if we have a structure, our structure plans. And at the end, we prepare and obtain our resource agency permits and approvals, and we prepare that final PS&E for submittal to our central office. And again, another important milestone would be a draft review meeting to get concurrence from stakeholders that we've got a complete and accurate plan set. So who do we partner with? We partner with internal and external customers. Internally, each region has a planning section. They have traffic operations and maintenance sections. We have materials, soils, and final sections, environmental, railroad, and utilities. We have survey real estate. We have our Bureau of Structures office, and then public relations, and then we have our construction teams. And these milestones at 30, 60, and 90 are very important points to get concurrence on our plan sets as we move forward to minimize that risk of changes during construction. So externally, we coordinate with the public. We work with law enforcement and other emergency response sections. We work with local government, stakeholders, the resource agencies again, and industry. And sometimes during our plan development, we will be working with industry to talk about complex or unique project items. Those could be constructability, best practices, traffic staging, access, work zones, schedules, complex or unique issues, and then complex bridges or retaining walls. So once we've delivered that final PS&E, and as Tony mentioned, most of our PS&Es are delivered a year early to help with managing the budget. If there were funds available, these projects could be moved up. But when we do have a final let date decided and a final PS&E is submitted, that's typically 3 to 5 months before a project letting. And then there'll be some review by Bureau of Project Development. We have to coordinate with FHWA. We hold a final ad meeting, and the proposal is advertised typically 5 weeks before a project let. So I was going to try to go to the web too, and we'll see if this works. So close it.
Yeah. And then click on the link of your. Yep, there you go.
All right. So here's the highway construction contract information page. You can get here through the WisDOT.gov website by clicking Doing Business, Contractors, and then HCCI. And there's a bunch of information here on the left that might be helpful. We have the general page here with general notices to contractors. We have our bid letting page with our monthly lettings. I did want to point out down here we have a preliminary plan page. So some of our projects that are large and complex, we may put on this preliminary plan page for contractors to look at prior to a letting, and it's just for information. We have a questions and answers page. So after the project is advertised for letting, if there's questions from the contractor, they would submit that through Bid Express. Those answers would be then posted back on the website for everyone to see. And here again is that DBE link, and if you click here and go to events, you'd be able to find that other 2022 workshop on consultant selection process. But if we jump into the bid letting page, you can see you can go to the year that you'd like to see. Here's the January bid letting information. Here you'll find the advertisement, the plans and proposals for each contract. If there's any addenda, those would be changes that have been made since the advertisement. And then there'll be supplemental information here with construction data packs. Here's the question and answer page. And then eventually the apparent bids and awards will be posted here. So another place you can go to find some of the work types, you can go to the counter sheets here, which will give you a brief description of each proposal in that letting and the work type for it. There's also a tab here for schedule of bid items. And then the advertisement will also give a little more detail as to what type of project that is and what are some of the work summary listings. So with that, I will turn it over to Jason to talk about what happens after the letting process.
All right, well, thanks, Doug. While he's getting the presentation loaded up again, I'm not going to the web, so we shouldn't have any issues with that. But we're going to get on to some good stuff, which is construction. We're going to talk a little bit about, some considerations from the DOT's perspective on construction, and a little bit about kind of consulting opportunities, and construction opportunities for DBEs, and just the general process that we follow once we get past the design phase, as kind of Doug and Tony talked about kind of the programming. So again, I'm Jason Roselle. I'm the Southeast Freeways Construction Chief, and most of our, I think all of our members here today are kind of Southeast region, so kind of a Southeast region focused panel, but a lot of the information we're covering here today is really applies to the statewide programs that are delivered and the way that we do business on a statewide basis. But in the Southeast, we are functionally split on most of our PDS side of things between design and construction. We do have some overlap, but we do have design-focused teams and construction-focused teams. So we do have representation, as you heard from the panel, from a number of our different construction teams. And we're trying to kind of give it from a project manager's perspective, but it's just really considerations that you're going to want to think about if you're going to be looking at bidding and working on a WisDOT construction project. So on to the last phase, as we're talking about here. From a consulting perspective and a staffing perspective on a project, we do have WisDOT in-house personnel that do construction management, construction inspection. So at times we will fully staff a project with just in-house personnel. Sometimes we will have blended teams of in-house personnel with consultants, and then sometimes we will have fully managed projects by just consultants. So we contract with various consultants in various different ways. So kind of the main way is our annual construction fair, and those NOIs and solicitation happen in the summer. So solicitations in July, the notice of interest are due in August. Then we have an interview process, and selections that are then posted in October and November for the next construction season, or for any multi-year projects, that might be being let either that fall or the next year. The important thing about the construction fair, as I lead into the next thing, is that we also make addenda selections that come out of that construction fair. So Tony and Doug kind of alluded to that we have advanceable projects. We have things that kind of pop up throughout the year. Sometimes we have emergency projects. If we have, for example, a bridge hit or something that happens and we need to do some repairs on a project, we will use the interviews from the construction fair to make an addenda selection and select a consultant to help us manage that type of work. So it's important to participate in that construction fair because it gives you opportunities throughout then the next year. The other way that we also put out solicitations is through our bi-monthly. And we typically only do that for construction, consulting, engineering, for our mega majors or some of our larger 3R projects. So sometimes we want to get out ahead of that construction fair, make a selection, make sure we kind of have a team built for those large projects. So not only the department, can make sure we have the best teams in place, but also so that the consultants can kind of plan for their work and make sure that they're teaming with the right people as they're looking ahead to the next few years. And then lastly, we do also use master contracts and work orders out of those for specialty services. And an example of that would be we need to have some surveying done on a project, or maybe some utility coordination pops up, or we also use it sometimes for plan review, constructability reviews. So Doug had kind of talked about constructability reviews and workshops we do with contractors. We also bring in consultant engineering firms at times to help us do some of that plan review in the last kind of final design phases on some of our more complex projects. On the bidding side of things, Doug just took you to the HCCI site. That really is the most important place for information for contractors to go and find out what's coming up for the program, bidding information, how to pre-qualify, how to be a plan holder and request information. And then one of the really important phases is that Q&A. So in that 5-week advertising period, for the bid letting process is when we really want you guys to be looking at the projects, asking questions, pointing out anything that may be in conflict or need clarification. And that all happens through that Bid Express website. And that's really an important aspect of the bidding pre-construction phase, so that we can make any changes to the plans if we need to, or if we need to clarify any information so that you can put in your best bid and have the best information. And kind of a new process with the DBE documentation that we've done the last couple of years here is the DBE information is due at bid time now. So I'll kind of jump to that with the bid letting timeline. Before I get to that, pre-qualification. So if you are looking to be a prime contractor and bid on projects as a prime, there is a pre-qualification process. So you basically need to provide proof of competency, and there's pre-qualification by ratings and by classes of work. So there's a bunch of different class types, and you can be certified in multiple work types, but we do pre-qualify various contractors by the type of work that they specialize in. Just want to talk a little bit about our contractual documents. So as you get into a WisDOT construction project, you sign a contract with the department to provide the work. And the main contract documents at the beginning we have our standard specifications that are updated on an annual basis. And sometimes there's updates that come out throughout the year, so there'll be additional special provisions, ASP 6 information that comes out. We just had some recent ones here to add, for example, winter suspension information for completion date contracts. There's some new information that's just been added for utility delays based on the new legislation. So things like that is stuff you want to kind of be aware of as you're looking at bidding projects, that those special provisions do come out, and they do modify the standard specs, and you want to make sure that you're up to date on that as you're putting your bids in. Then we do have a proposal, and it's a special, all the special provisions and miscellaneous quantities, authorized quantities for the project, really all the general information about that specific project, and all the specifics about the prosecution of progress, the traffic control, and any special requirements on that project are in that proposal document. And then you have the plans. So we have 2D plans, PDFs. We do have our contractor data packet that also comes out that has some surfaces, some 3D modeling information and things like that we try to release ahead of bidding to help with the bidding process. Those are not contractual documents. Those are information-only documents, but these are really the key 3 documents that are contractual at the beginning of the project. So our bid letting timeline, we let projects the second Tuesday of every month, and as stated, they get advertised 5 weeks prior to that. We do, on some of our larger, complex, major, and mega projects, we'll extend that advertising time. So we'll go up to like an 8-week time frame to give the contractors a little bit more time to, one, look over all those projects and submit questions. We did that on the zoo interchange on some of the bigger projects. You know, you're dealing with a 4,000 sheet plan set and a 300-page proposal, so we want to make sure that you have the best information in the most amount of time as you're trying to balance everything else you're working on and all the other projects you're trying to get done. That is one of the reasons on those projects, as we've kind of talked about, is that we do have contractor workshops. We do work with WTBA and others, so if you're at all interested in getting involved in any of those contractor workshops, reach out to any of us and we can make sure to get you some information. We're going to be doing some coming up, for example, on the I-94 East-West project in Milwaukee area. But that also is a good opportunity to start learning about the projects as you're getting into the bidding phase, so that you're kind of getting up to speed before you're getting into that advertising period. So second Tuesday, submit your bid information through BidX. I talked a little bit about the DBE information. There can be some back and forth on that DBE information that's submitted, depending on whether the goal is met or if there is a good faith waiver request that's being put in. And that process is really managed by our OBEC and DBE groups. So they'll be in contact with you about that information, and then we'll move into the award and execution phase if you're the low bidder. So once we get to that point, the department will award the contract within 30 days or a mutually agreed extension. We definitely on most projects will award typically within 7 to 10 days if there isn't any complications with the DBE or bidding information that we've received. And then once we do go from the award to the execution phase, the key thing there that I haven't talked about is that 30% rule. And sometimes there's a little bit of back and forth on that. So the prime contractor is required to perform 30% of the work. There are some exclusions for specialty items, and that's an important aspect to know. So if you are looking to bid on projects as a prime, make sure you kind of read up on that 30% rule and all the specialty items that can be excluded from it. And if you have questions about that, please reach out to us and we can kind of walk you through that. Assuming we get past that 30%, then we send you the contract and looking for execution of it within 10 business days. And then we move on to actually building some stuff. So just wanted to go a little bit through kind of our construction goals, and these seem kind of simple, but there's a lot that goes into them. As you've heard throughout our timeline here of the planning phase, the scoping, the design, there's a lot of coordination, there's a lot of communication and a lot of partnerships that happen throughout it. And then that continues once we get into construction. So we're trying to meet the timelines that we're committing to the taxpayers and to the state of Wisconsin. We're trying to maintain those budgets so that we can continue to let projects and keep our program healthy. We build it with the community, so we try to include them in the process and make sure that their voices are heard and that they are aware of everything that's happening. We try to keep routes open for business. We're trying to make sure that all the businesses that are in and around our projects are able to keep their businesses going. Sometimes that can be one of the most difficult things on a project, especially in the southeast part of the state. We have a densely urban area in some of our projects, and business access can be a definite big challenge. And probably should have started with it, but safety. We've really been working strongly with the contractors and the industry to work on safety, make it the first thing we're talking about, make sure that we're leading by example out there with personal protective equipment, and making sure that we have the right traffic control in place, the messaging is right, that we're all working safely together and communicating. It's a dangerous place out there in construction, so we want to make sure that everybody is safe and everybody's going home at the end of the day. And then, we want to build a quality product. We want to make sure that we're leaving a product that's going to last the expected timeline that we're expecting. So, Pre-construction activities. So once we've got the contract awarded and executed and we're moving into the construction phase, there's a bunch of things that need to happen. We need to put in the sublet request. So, beyond just the DBE information, clearly you're going to be subletting work to others, and there's forms that are to be filled out and information that gets provided to the department on who those subcontractors are on the project and what work they're going to be performing. The erosion control implementation plan is an important step in coordination that we do with the Department of Natural Resources. So 14 days prior to the pre-con, the ESIP gets submitted, and sometimes it's very simple to start, and then we do addendums and amendments to it as we go along, depending on if select sites are being added or additional stormwater measurements and things like that are needed. The contractor is required to have a designated material coordinator. This is a process that's been kind of in place for quite a while now, but there's a highway technician certification program which is run through University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Go Pioneers. And you have to be certified to be that material coordinator. So if you're unaware of that process, make sure you read up on it or ask some questions about it. And then we also want to start talking about the schedule, the initial work plan, start coordinating those efforts so that the department and the contractors are on the same page. So 14 days to prior to the pre-con, we're looking for that initial work plan that covers the first 60 days of work. And then from there, we can kind of move on to the more robust schedule that encompasses the entire project. And there's some different specifications related to scheduling in our contracts, depending on which type of project it is, the complexity. It may have a critical path method schedule requirement using Primavera P6 software. You're only going to see those on our major and mega projects, typically, or some of our larger 3R projects. But it is something to be aware of. There is some expertise needed there to kind of use that software and put it in place. And then once we have the pre-con, we'll issue the notice to proceed, and then we're looking for the project to start within 10 days after that notice to proceed. Talk a little bit about what you can expect from the department and kind of what is the purpose of the department and our designees out on site. So we're performing day-to-day construction oversight. We're making sure that we're meeting the scope, budget, schedule, and quality of the project. We're monitoring the traffic control. As I stated, the traffic control is a really important thing on a project, especially with some of the mega and major ones and the freeway projects that we deal with. The messaging is critical to make sure that we're keeping the traveling public safe. And so we're going to be doing daily surveillance of that traffic control and issuing orders to the contractors if there's any corrections that are needed out there. We are ensuring the project's being built to the plans and specifications. And we're documenting the project. We're keeping daily diaries. And then probably the one you like the best is we're going to measure and pay you. So, when you really boil it down, we always kind of joke, like, we don't build anything. We're just out there helping deliver the project. The contractors are building the project, and we're just really there to measure and pay and make sure things are built according to the plans. And then, there's a lot of administration, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into these projects. So our teams out there are making sure that they're communicating and documenting and sending formal written direction to the contractors and vice versa, answering questions, making sure that we're all on the same page. Contractor obligations. So these are right in the standard specifications. It kind of outlines what we expect from you working on a WisDOT project. Sounds simple, but perform the work that the contract tells you to. Build it according to plans and specs. Build it with quality. Build it within the lines, grades, and cross sections, dimensions. All the things that are established in the contract. You're obligated to perform. You're obligated to monitor the work to ensure that it then conforms to the contract. So you need someone out there that's kind of monitoring it, and your subcontractors and making sure that the work is getting the attention necessary to promote the progress of it as well. So that kind of gets back to the scheduling. We on most of our projects, we're talking about schedule every week. We have kind of a 3-week look-ahead scheduling process. So we want to be looking at what's coming up in the next week and then what's 2 weeks beyond that, so that, one, we can plan our staffing from a department standpoint, our materials testing, and to make sure that you're meeting the intent of the contract as well. And then supplying the correct materials, using the right tools, and supplying the right labor out on a project, and then supervising it and making sure that it's all coming together. And then let's just say that all goes really smoothly and everybody has a great time and we build a great project. Then we got to do some closeout. You know, we got to make sure there's final payments, that we have all the proper documentation to kind of put in our files. And we have a 180-day goal, so basically a 6-month goal from substantial completion. So basically when we kind of are substantially complete with the project, we're going to shut off contract time. And then we're going to do some final inspections, final measurements. We're going to issue a punch list to the contractor. And then we're going to make sure that we have all of our change orders in place and we're working through those final documentation. The other key thing about that substantial completion notice is that at that point it relieves the contractor of maintenance responsibilities. So throughout the life of a project, the contractor is responsible for maintenance within the footprint of the project. We do have some coordination with our counties for like snow and ice removal and things like that, but otherwise the maintenance of the road is the responsibility of the contractor. And so contractors are happy to get to that substantial completion timeline because then they don't have to worry about it as much, right? And yeah, then we're looking for the punch list to be completed. And once we have that done, then we put in what's kind of our all contract work complete date. It goes into AstroWare. So AstroWare project is our software that we use to manage the project, put in estimates and payment, documentation. And so that's where we will enter that date. And then we're working through our final material records and our payroll records that come through our CRCS system, and working with our labor compliance unit. And then once we kind of get through all of that and we have all our what the department considers our final payments, final measurements, then we will send what's called the semi-final estimate to the contractor. And then there's a 30-day review time that the contractor has, or a mutually agreed extension, for you and and your subs to review all the information and make sure that you're in agreement with all the final payments and all the estimates and all the quantities. And if there is disputes, sometimes we'll get together and work through those, and we might have to update that semifinal based on something that we may have done incorrectly or that we missed, or there could be a claims process at that point, depending on what the issue is. We try to avoid those. I think everybody would like to avoid those, but if we get that semifinal estimate done, everything is in place, then we will issue the final acceptance letter and the final estimate is sent and the project is done. So that's a little bit about the construction phase and about the entire life of a WisDOT project, from initiation to closeout. So I think we're available for questions now, or any comments for any of us here from WisDOT Southeast Region. Tim.
Hey there. Hi there. Hey, what's going on, Jason? Just 2 quick questions. Can you reiterate or remind us of the timing that is best to begin asking questions about specific items associated with the project that you plan on going after? This is both for primes as well as for subs. And I guess question 1A. Question 1B is, if you are a tier 2 or 3 subcontractor, is it best then to have questions about, let's say, payment disputes, engineer giving you credit for doing some work that you've done? Is it best to ask the department those questions, or the GC that you're working with in those instances if a dispute does arise?
Yeah, so in the construction phase, once we're working on the project and you're a subcontractor or a second or third tier sub, we would certainly ask that you start the communication with your prime contractor. That is really, the department has a contract with them, and we like to work through the prime contractor in that communication. So we really want you to start there, Tim, and then if at such time that you're having some issues, or you're having a prompt payment issue, or you're having a dispute on quantities or things like that, you certainly can always reach out to the department. And our key person there is really our WisDOT project manager and/or our on-site project engineer, which could be a department personnel or a consultant. But those are really the two key individuals to start with. And our project managers are in responsible charge of our projects. They're kind of the most key person, I would say, in all phases of our projects. And they can be the best source of information or get you to the right place. So I would encourage you that if you're on a project and you're a sub, to know who those people are. Because I don't think that always happens. You and I chatted about that previously, that we want to make sure that connection is made, and that at the pre-construction conference is probably a good place to make sure you have all that information and that you know those phone numbers, those emails, those contact information on that project, so that those are the people you should reach out to if you're not getting the information you need from your prime. Boomy?
The first thing I would suggest, because it's between you and the prime, I would suggest tread carefully. Get your information. You can talk to the project leader on the field to get all the data that you need that supports your claim or something like that. And also walk through the DBE office also to be, if you're going after the prime contractor, so they can help you out on that. Because if you go, these are the people you are having, after this particular project, you're going to be having more projects in the future. So you don't want to burn your bridges. So have someone to intervene with you. Some DBE can help you intervene and facilitate that.
Although I will say, Boomy, that sometimes we've had issues where it's been a very simple issue that can be handled by a simple phone call, and then it involves too many people going to the DBE office, then it goes through WTB. If it's a big issue, yes, I totally agree with what you're saying.
And that's what I was saying. If
yeah.
It's a big issue. That's what I said. If you have a dispute, now that means you've talked it over, you didn't get through. Just tread carefully. But if it's something that could be handled with a simple phone call with some clarification, say you've already gotten some data from the project leader on the field, and you presented that data to your prime, maybe oversight. It might just be resolved, But I'm talking about if it's a big issue.
All right. Any other questions?
We do have 5 minutes.
Benji, you have a question? Comment?
Really? Okay. Thought I always had a big mouth here. Could you please explain the importance of proper and timely material submittals? Noticing that there are some issues, and I don't think people understand how critical it is and what it takes to get paid.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hit on kind of supplying the right materials, but I didn't really hit on supplying the information that supports those materials. So a lot of materials that are required on a WisDOT project also require documentation and certification of those materials. Depending on what it is, it may be, actual testing information that was done on site, or it may be just certifications from the manufacturer and things like that. We have a lot of issues, and we've been working on it for a long time to try to kind of expedite that process and make sure we're communicating with each other. But there always does seem to be some issues with kind of getting that information timely, and that will hold up payment. We have requirements, through Federal Highway Administration and just our own process that we will withhold percentages of items and things like that if we do not have all of the material information that documents and supports that the materials meet the requirements. So again, if there's any questions about that, as you're getting into a project or you're part of a project, please just communicate, ask questions, talk to the project engineer. The materials coordinator for the prime should be kind of a key person there as well. So make sure you understand who that person is and you're communicating with them as well.
If you're on a job and the prime contractor says you have whatever the specs are, and they come to you saying, hey, can you add an extra 25 feet to whatever you're doing or whatever, and you do it because you think you're pretty cool with the prime contractor, engineer comes back through, checks to monitor it, and you don't get credit for that 25% because the engineer is saying, well, hey, the specs only calls for X amount. You say, well, I talked to the prime and he asked me to do 25 extra feet. I did that. Those kinds of disputes, who would mitigate that situation like that when the engineer doesn't give you credit for what you did and you were just kind of doing something that the prime asked you to do on the project?
Yeah, this is a situation that we have, I know we talked about as well, Tim, a little bit, the last time we met, is we do have some disputes and things that come up in those situations where the primes will sometimes ask subs to do things that are for their convenience or for something that might be incidental to another item, that they're getting paid for. Situations like that do arise. So, we as the department have really been putting a high emphasis on making sure that we are giving written direction on any extra work, and so that we don't have those types of situations. We're trying to really get away from verbal direction in the field and, handshake kind of deals in the field. We're not trying to stifle, communication on the field and efficiencies, but we want to make sure that everyone's being protected, the department and the contractors, so that everybody is aware of what's being paid for, what isn't. And if you do have a dispute that comes up like that, again, I would reach out to the project engineer, start there, work through them, and understand how they're interpreting the contract and how you're interpreting it. And I think I would really suggest that you get in writing from the prime any kind of work that you're being requested to do that you feel is above and beyond what you are supposed to. So.
Okay, we are out of time. Just FYI, we have the networking session right after here, and it's with the WisDOT. So if you do have any questions and you want to ask more questions, the whole staff will be here for your questions. So thank you all for coming. I hope you found this session valuable.